Well, it's been a couple days that I got my patch panel in, so we can finally go about finishing that driver's side rocker area. But first, before I do that, I got to do a patch inside of the cowl shoulder. So I went and cut out that area inside this box here, and you can see I got a piece of metal cut to size, but there's some things that need to be done. If you look up, it's not a flat surface, so I got to create a contour in here, and that's what that line is. That's about where I got to make that bend, and it's got to follow the curve here. I made a couple other lines in the back right there. That is the shape, the material that's going to be removed. So this whole section my thumb is on will be removed. Down here is roughly my bend line for there. So I'm gonna take this over to the bench, and I'm gonna find something, and I'm gonna start trying to make that bend in it. So the first step I wanna do is I wanna get this flat piece to lay in here nice and flat. Then the next step would be trim off some unnecessary material. And I think the final step would be to make our bend. All right, so the way I'm gonna start excuse me, the way I'm going to start by trying to make this bend is I'm going to try and hammer form it. Now, obviously, this isn't a professional setup, but this is how I'm going to get it done. They sell round sandbags and special hammers that are meant for this, but I'm just creating a soft surface, and I'm going to put my panel on. I got a ball peen hammer. This is the smallest one I have with a round surface. I'm just going to tap along that line. Already I got a nice contour starting to form. You can see. Now I'm going to run it. I'm going to check this on the car really quick. Well, guys, I'm going to have to say, doing that, well, I have to say here, it's not often that I get something done on the first try, but that right there looks pretty dang good. So now, let's move on to step 2. And let's start removing some unnecessary material from here. Where here's the final product on that little patch I made for in there. See, it's going to fit just like that. It's going to have one spot weld on the side and then one on the bottom coming up from the rocker. And then we'll butt weld the rest of it. So let me get this self-tapped in place, and we're going to burn it in. Here's how it came out. I didn't bother dressing the welds all the way down. You're not going to see inside of here. I got my 2 spot welds in there. I just threw some self-etch primer. Same with underneath in this area here. So now I'm going to move on and start getting this pillar patch cut to size and start doing whatever we need to do to get it to fit the car. Now, I do know the original one is going to be a great template. It's going to let me know exactly where I need to cut. Now, I do need to hack the bottom off here just because the nut, you can see how that sits, or I'll just cut it big and we'll go from there. But what I do know is the original would not sit flush at, I'm sorry, let me better situate this. The original would not sit flush at the bottom here. It was raised up about that much. That's because this area here was hitting the 2 flanges on the rocker that weld to it. So hopefully we don't have that same problem here. But if we do, what's going to happen is I'm going to have to cut those 2 little ears off of the rocker panel, weld them on here, get this to fit, and then weld along the end of the rocker panel. And what I'm talking about is these right here. So I'd have to cut it right there, fit the actual the jamb patch, and then come back and re-weld these ears back to the rocker. I got the door ripped off to make this process a little bit easier. I started trimming this patch down, and it's a tight fit right now, and that's simply because the bottom portion of this right here is wider than the factory. The factory is about 1/4 inch narrower, so I got to start trimming down this edge right here. But overall, I am close, as you can see. My original line. I'm probably gonna get my grinder and just slowly grind it till we get into place. All right, so I'm still messing with this dog leg. I accidentally cut too much material here, so I created a lot more work for myself there, but there's also quite a bit of work to do with this aftermarket panel. As you can see right there, I had to make a cut, a relief cut there, and I also made one in here behind the panel to get this to slide in nice and flush. That was one issue. Now the next issue, which I already predicted, is the bottom here was sticking out maybe 3/8 of an inch. As you can see, I push it up nice. Look at that gap. So now it looks like I got to do some grinding on the top to get it to sit flush, and then I'm gonna have to make a little sliver of metal to get in there and weld that up in the position I need it to be in. But this is all the time it takes to get these parts to fit. So that's the next task right there. I do got to finish cleaning up these welds. You see a little booger there. I just, dressed it enough so I could get this panel back in place and start addressing these little tabs. Take a little material off of the top of this one. You can't see too well, but position my light. I got to do the same thing on the bottom as it's overlapping that. I might just cut this right off. I don't know yet. But that's how much I needed to stretch it. But now, you see, we're making contact. So once I get that get those tabs welded back in, we should be ready to start burning this in. Minus, I gotta add this metal back in. This is the piece I trimmed off where I got a little ambitious. So weld that back on, and then we'll just do the grinder until it fits. I got this screwed in now where it's gonna live. I double checked my measurements. Before I removed it, I did measure from the cribbing up to the bottom of the bolt, and that was 9 7/8, and we're there. Now, I did not measure distance from here to the center of the bolt hole, but comparing it to the stock, it does appear to be the same width, same length. Where the width was off, it does appear to have the proper length on it. Now, when I put this screw in, it sucked it in too far. So, one, the gap's too tight, so I got to grind that down a little bit, add metal here, which would be the next step once I get this situated, which is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to start cutting little slivers of metal to weld in there. But after that's done, I'm going to do this right now. Then I figure when I go about actually permanently welding this, I'm going to line these edges up. I'm not going to put screws in. I will put my lower screw here. I just got one right there, and then I'll drill 2 holes. But I did put my I will put my lower screw. But removing this would allow me to move this around. Now move it around, get this welded flush. Then I will screw it down, hammer it, whatever I need to do to get it in position here. This is the most critical part that I want this to be where it was before, is the fender mounting bolt. This, I'll play with it, I'll move it around. It'll look good in the end. Obviously, well, Like I said before, I did create more work for myself by getting a little too crazy with the cutoff wheel. It is what it is. It can be fixed. It's going to cost me more time, more welding, more grinding. What are you going to do? That's part of building cars. Sometimes you make mistakes and you just keep moving forward. Anyways, I thought I'd show you how that sucked that in. Let's get a couple pieces of metal here cut. Here's my first piece of metal to get welded in right there. The second one is made up, sitting right here. So I'm gonna get these tacked into place. There it is, all tacked in place. Here are the relief cuts I was telling you that I had to make earlier. I do gotta dress those up a little bit better. So now, I gotta burn these in, obviously, from the rest of the way, but I am contemplating on making little bits to fill in these gaps. Now, from the factory, they didn't do anything about that. I think they might have just slapped some seam sealer in there, but I do know that there wasn't any on this car. The holes were just present. Another thing I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna take this piece, and this is the piece that I did trim off, and I'm gonna weld that back on to fill in that gap. Another thing I wanna do, it's probably not necessary, but it's gonna make me sleep better at night, is you can see the little welded nut in there. And if you look at those little welds, I don't like them. So I'm just gonna, wire brush the side of it. And then I'm just gonna put a nice healthy tack on probably two sides of it. Just to, like I said, make me sleep better at night. But let's keep trucking away at this. I'd like to get this side done today. Get it welded in because, well, I did get called back to work and I'm going to be leaving town in a few days. And we are now ready to get this burned in. Everything's been prepped, hit with weld through primer. Came out good. If you look really closely, you can tell that those been stretched out, but it's not perfect. You see that top edge? I did close those gaps up, like I said. That splice came out pretty good. Blended in really well. I left the top of this one there. You'll never see it, but I did grind the surface nice and smooth so the patch panel sits flush. Now I did decide not to weld that metal that I needed to add here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just grind a little sliver down and I'm gonna stick it in afterwards. And the reason I chose to go that route was simply because I didn't want to accidentally weld it on an angle that didn't match. But there it is, got a decent gap. It does get a little big right there, but I'm pretty sure I can weld that shut. Here though, like I said, we're gonna add metal. I got all my welds, as you can see. I got a bunch here. I might have maybe 2 more than what the factory had across here. But that's no big deal. There's one thing I didn't notice that I'm noticing now. This little arch here, the curve in the metal is way, it's not as sharp as the original. So it's not as sharp as the original, as you can see there. So what's gonna have to happen is, once I'm gonna weld this so far, I'm actually gonna have to put a cut right there. I'm gonna have to cut it, split, and stretch it out. Check out how far I had to split that just to get the corner correct. I'm gonna have to cut a piece of metal to fit inside of there because that is definitely way too big of a gap there. So I'm gonna lay it in pretty much, and then when I get up here, I'll just use a cut-off wheel and cut that off. Right now, get it started right about there. See if I can do this with the snips. There it is, all burnt in. That corner was a pain. I actually see a pinhole right there, so I'm gonna fire the welder up and touch that up. But overall, looks really good. Now for the best part, dressing welds. There's the final result. Came out good. The corner looks good there. Gonna need a nice little tight coat of filler. But overall, I think it looks great. I didn't get too crazy on those spot welds. I did want to grind them down just a little bit. So now I'm gonna clean this up. Hit it with a little bit of paint. Probably just whatever I got laying around the shelf. It's gonna get stripped down later. There it is, the hinge patch is done. That's pretty much it for this video. I'm gonna throw the door on it, and then I'm probably gonna have to take a break from the car because, well, it's springtime. I got a couple projects I gotta take care of around the house. I gotta work on getting these cars ready for the road. Unfortunately, they all need a little something. Bad luck, when I went to put the Chevelle away last year, brake pedal went straight to the floor, so I think the master might have crapped out on me. I don't know, I gotta diagnose that. The Camaro, well, we're still working the bugs out of it. It's a fresh build, and I think I need a new crankshaft sensor, so I gotta take care of that so I can drive those. But like I said, I'm gonna be taking a break. I'm gonna do my best to keep the content rolling. Please be patient. I'm also going back to work, and I travel for work, so I only have the weekends to play and do my chores around the house. So as soon as I take care of those projects, you know, I gotta do a new staircase and I gotta redo a room. But once that's all done, I'm gonna start trying to get back on this and doing what I can. Anyways, guys, Thank you all for watching. Stay tuned. Like I said, please be patient. Content's going to slow down a little bit, but I'm going to do my best to keep it coming. As always, thank you for watching, and I'm going to see you on the next one.